So we're going to start with the body of the hare, which, as you can see, is a nice cone shape, and we're going to create that shape around this wooden barbecue skewer, which makes it a whole lot easier. Everything will be done around it apart from the ears, so hopefully you will find that it's a lot easier to create really nice symmetry, especially when it comes to creating the legs and a nice shape for the head. All you'll need is one needle. This is a 38 standard, so it's not particularly flexible, and that's exactly what you need. You want something that's quite robust because you're going to be working around this barbecue skewer. So if you do catch the stick, which inevitably you will, then you want to make sure it's much more difficult to break the needle. And that's all you need for the entire project. I'm working on a foam base here, which is what most people have, and then I've just popped a piece of wool felt on top to protect that foam, so I'm never sort of having to replace it, or not very often anyway. And you may also have like a rice mat. Again, if you have a rice hessian mat or anything like this, then just pop a piece of felt on top of it to protect it and prolong the life. Now I'm using carded wool. This is a Shetland carded wool to start with. And what I'm going to do is, this is quite thick, it's long lengths of carded wool. I think you'll hear them called slivers as well, but I just call them long lengths. And so what I'm going to do is to make it easy to shape. You don't want too much bulk. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split that lengthways. Now you'll probably be looking at 15-20 grams in total of wool for the body. So base it around that, but just sort of take a long length and start working and see where you get to. Starting at the point of your barbecue skewer, doesn't really matter, but I always start there. What you're going to do is you're just going to start wrapping the carded wool around, and the trick here is to keep it flat, keep your fingers close to the barbecue skewer, because with carded wool it can break apart much more easily than it would if you were using a wool top. So keep your hands and fingers close together, keep it tight and keep it flat, and then just start to wind that around. And what you don't want to do is twist the wool either. So you can also, depends which way you prefer to work, you can just use it like that. Keep your thumb and your finger there, keep it close to the stick, and then stop when you've done 2 or 3 inches and just felt down the side of that wool. Not into the stick, just down the side. And all we're doing is just gently securing this. We don't need to do too much work with the felting needle, because the wool will hold itself because of how we're using it. So continue down. We're going to go, I would say, about not quite 2/3 of the way down the barbecue skewer. Again, if you want, whichever way works best for you, you can wrap it around and overlap as you come around each time, because what you don't want to do is see the stick. The stick doesn't want to be visible. So we'll stop there. If it unravels, just catch hold of it again, and then just gently felt it so it holds. So what we're going to do is we're going to work backwards and forwards, and each time we're going to start a little bit further down from the top, because that is the area, so we want to go narrow and then widen it as it comes to the bottom. So now we're going to start working back up. Again, you can wind it round that way, or you can keep your thumb and your finger there to stop it slipping down the stick, and then just start to work it back up. And can you see you've got it slightly diagonally, so that you're actually working back up. Don't worry about any lumps and bumps yet. We will deal with all of that when we take it off the skewer. And so I'm just stopping shy of the top there. Hold and felt. And then continue to work back down again. Keep that nice and tight, that's the trick, and keep it flat. Don't let it twist. If you let it twist, then it will become quite uneven. And like most things with needle felting, it can all be rectified, but it just makes the job easier and quicker if we get it right as we go. You see that? So I'm just going to wrap it once more around the base, just to start building that up. And that's all you need, is a few felts with the needle. Now can you see how that's starting to shape? Now I want this bottom to be particularly wide, so I'm just going to wrap a couple of times before I start moving back up again. And then here we go, back up. Now just hold it there if you want, if you feel you need to. You can just felt that just so it's secure. Use that thumb and finger there at the bottom to stop it from moving about. Then as you go up, and stop short again, a little bit further down this time. And if we think this is going to be the neck area, so if we think that's going to be too narrow, we can just go back up and thicken it up in the last wraps as we go up. And then at this point what we're also going to do is we want this nice and flat, so we're just going to go in straight on. Mind your fingers, keep your fingers flat on top of the work or further back, just so you don't catch yourself with that needle. And you see how that is starting to flatten out now. It's a really simple process, but it does take time because you want it to be right. So you can see how that shape is beginning to form now. And it's quite lumpy and bumpy, so don't worry about that. We'll sort that out when we take it off the stick, because that's when we really sort of tidy it up and smooth it out. But you can really see that shape beginning to form now. And you see you've got these lines here where you're wrapping around. That's fine as well. If you want to, you can just go around and smooth them out. But remember, it's only the top layer that's actually going to be visible. And what we don't want to do, because we want this neck quite loose for when we actually attach it to the head, then we don't really do much felting in that area at the moment. So again, see, I'm just working down. Keep your thumb and finger at the bottom here to stop it moving. Make sure you've got plenty at that base. And like I said, if you are working from the kit, make sure that you do use your template. So if you're working on the template, as you can see, you need to widen that up a little bit more, but lengthwise it's pretty okay. And it doesn't have to be exact, it's only a rough guide, it's a size guide. So I'm just going to widen this base a little bit more. Let's see. And using a barbecue stick is amazing. It's like it's like felter's friend. You can do so much around it. I think if you've been watching my tutorials, you might have seen the bumblebee tutorial, and we made the bumblebee brooches and the spring garlands around this. Just so easy and so fast as well when you're doing little projects like the bees and the felted balls. But you can, I'll pop some links below so you can actually see what else you can do on this. So I'm just going to come back up, and we're almost there really with this. So I'm just bringing that back up, and then just got this little wisp here, and you can almost, well, you can sort of attach this without felting it, just to secure it. And then what we'll do is where that end is there, so this loose bit here, we'll just felt that in, and then we'll go back to the base again. which we need nice and flat, because this is going to be where the hair actually sits and it needs stability. You'll create more stability when you add the legs, but having this nice and flat to start with is quite important. And if it needs flattening out a little bit more later on, you can just push down on it and use your hands. Your hands are just great tools when you're needle felting, and don't underestimate how useful they actually are. And wools, you can manipulate wool an awful lot with your hands, create different shapes, lengths, widths. So there we go. And you see how already, see how that shape's coming on. Now it's a little bit lumpy and bumpy here, but that's okay. We're going to sort that out when we take it off. But I just think this neck bit here just needs a little bit more. So I'm just going to take a small piece and just start there. So I'll just felt that on. Probably won't need all of this, but it pulls off really easily. So just take that around, you see, and I just want to bring it up to the neck here and keep it quite tight, keep it nice and firm. I think that's enough actually, so I'll just pull that off there. As you can see, because it's carded, it does pull away quite easily, and then just wrap it round. And then we're just going to felt this neck a little bit. I mean, we want it loose, but we don't want it, the head flopping about. So then we start to work diagonally, and we start to create a really nice smooth shape. And because we've used the barbecue stick, we've got a nice firm core already without actually having to do a lot. Because we've wrapped it round nice and tightly, we've already secured the core. So really now we're just, you know, we're going quite deep to start with, just to secure the middle part, because we don't want it to unravel. So just work down, keep it turning. And then what we'll really focus on is the outside of the body. You see how that's nicely shaping now? And it all depends on personal preference. If you want, you can widen it at the base, but remember, we are going to add those legs, and then we're going to build up these haunches. So it's going to be a lot wider when we finish anyway. But what we're looking for is a nice taper. So just work down. You make great Christmas trees this way as well. And also works really well for gnomes. Where you can actually, if you're making a gnome, you can actually have this as the body part, and then wrap this top area in the hat colour that you want, and create the beard and everything down here. And that's another way of doing the gnomes. I'll probably do a tutorial on that later on in the year, you know, when it's more seasonal. Not that gnomes are just for Christmas, but that seems the right time to be doing it. So there we go, you can see. So nice and firm, but when we come up to this neck, it's quite loose, and that's how we want it. So all you do then is just slide that off the stick. You see how we're almost there with that. So now we're just going to work it a little bit more. So it's quite simple, the shape, but you just need to have a little bit of patience and work diagonally. And you can also use your hands just to smooth and shape. And if it's a bit short, you can actually lengthen it that way as well. I'm trying to follow that template because I tend to make things too big. So I'm trying to be careful not to do that. So you see that's coming on really nicely, and we are almost there with that. There we go. And I think I'm quite happy with that. I could work it a little bit more, I suppose, if I was a perfectionist. And if you are, no doubt you will continue to do so. But for me, that's okay. I'm happy with that. And again, use your hands if you want. You can just rub the outside. And this carded wool really doesn't show any needle marks, and because it's a Shetland wool, it's a really nice coarse wool. So if you were using a wool top, it would have a very similar result if you're using coarse wools. I wouldn't use something like a merino or a fine wool because it's going to be much more difficult. But with the coarser British wools that I like to use, then needle felting is just a dream with them, whether they're carded or wool tops. So there you go. That's looking pretty super. I'm pretty pleased with that. So then I think we'll go straight onto the head. Now the head is really easy and really fast. You're using the barbecue stick again. Now we want this to be a little bit firmer than the body, although the body is nice and springy. So when you squeeze it, it springs back, but it feels quite solid in the middle. So you don't want to overfelt it. You want to have a bit of give to it. And the head probably just a little bit firmer, just because we're going to attach the eyes to it and we don't want to lose the definition of the face. So again, half of the carded wool split down the length if it's quite wide, and again exactly as we did with the body, but this time it's a much shorter shape obviously, and we're going for more like an egg shape. So what you can actually do here is keep that nice and flat. You see how that's flat and not twisted? Keep it flat, and then you can, if you want, you can actually turn this stick. I'm just going to take some of this off here so I'm not trailing so much wool behind me. And then keep wrapping it round. Keep your thumb and your finger there. Keep it nice and firm. I've not even touched this with the needle yet, no need. Keep it going. So we're just starting to build that up. And then what we want to do is let's just add a little bit more length to it. So let's come down the stick, and if it starts to go wrong or you're not happy with it, unravel it, start again, hold it there, and then all we're going to do is just start to felt these top areas, and you will probably naturally end up with one end wider than the other, like an egg, and that will end up being the back of your head. And if you don't, then you can make one end wider. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to flatten this end like I did with the base of the body, and that will be the back of the head. You see what we've got there? So we continue with that. Keep your thumb and your finger there to stop it from becoming too long. Wrap it around again. Keep it nice and tight. And I'm just going to narrow it towards the nose here. Flip it round. Again, keep this back end of the head nice and flat. And don't worry about it looking flat, because we're going to attach the ears to the back of this later on, which will cover up this sort of flat area and create more shape. So don't worry about that. There we go. Now can you see what's happening there? How that's starting to shape. I think my body's a little bit smaller on this one, slightly maybe. So I'm going to go around again, because I don't want the head to be teeny tiny. And again, when I've felted some more, it will start to shrink. just going to pull that off there now. And again, if it isn't big enough, remember you can add more. It's much easier to add wool than take it away, because once you've felted it, you can't really pull it apart. So just work it around. Flat end here. I'm just going to work that there. So we're going straight in, needle straight on, and then turn it around, and this is the nose, so we're going to go in diagonally here so that we taper the nose. You see what's happening there now? So you've got the back of the head here, and then we've got this nose that's tapering down here. And we're really firming it up now whilst it's still on the stick, but you can see how that shape is really coming along nicely now. Can you see how much you're reducing that wool? You're going to reduce, I would say, by at least a third, especially with carded wool, because it's very lofty. There's a lot of air in it compared to wool tops or roving, as you may know it. So can you see what's happening there? So that's coming along quite nicely, but it's still quite loose. So keep working around and just don't be too precious. Most things when needle felting are fixable, and you will inevitably, no matter how many projects you have under your belt, you will go through the, oh, this looks awful, oh, I'm rubbish, oh, this is never going to work, ah, okay, this is looking all right now, oh, I love it. And it does, it's just the stages you go through. There we go. So looking very flat there and a little bit odd, but that's okay because we will sort that out. And I'm just thinking I might add a little bit more because it's just looking a little bit short. So, but I will be able to lengthen that out when I take it off. But I'm just going to add a little bit more wool before we do that, just to get it on nice and secure. So you see how easy it is just to pop a bit on the end. I'll pull that off, and then whatever we've got, we've got. It looks like I've destroyed all that good work, but I haven't, because you've got a nice firm shape underneath. Then all you do is just bring those ends in where you've where the base of the head is. Just bring that round, and that will add some length to it. Again, diagonal strokes with that needle. And we're just starting to soften that edge a little bit now. Again, super simple, easy shape to create, but it does require patience and a little bit of work. But the reward is absolutely worth it. So we've got a really nice shape there. I'm going to take that off the needle, off the stick now, because I just want to really start shaping that properly, getting rid of any lumps and bumps. And it's really important that you do get rid of all the lumps and bumps and you have a nice surface, because with this, a lot of my needle felting projects, you'll put something on top. So whether it be the sheep or the hare or the Highland cow, you tend to be putting on a looser layer on top, and it really doesn't matter. But with this, there is nowhere to hide. So it's really important that you work on that shape. And then I've got a little bit of something in there. So I'm just going to put that in my hands and just roll it backwards and forwards, and you see how that lengthened it. But we've got some loose wool here, so I'm just going to use my needle. Another good reason for using a nice robust needle is you can do this. You can use the needle to pull the wool around. And we are almost there. So you might want to go away and pause the video and work on it a little bit more. And I also, if things have gone really awry and you find it really difficult to rectify a problem, often the best thing to do is start again. Remember, every project you work on, whether it works the first time or the third time, you learn. You are constantly learning. There's no such thing as a failure, because you learn, and you can't learn without failing or making a mistake. Don't really like the word fail, because that's not what it is. You're learning. Every day's a school day. There we go. So I'll just give it another roll around just to smooth it. And that's looking pretty good. So then what will happen is that's where we have the soft area here for the neck. We're going to spread that out a little bit, and then that will attach to the body. Might look a little bit short in the head at the moment, but remember, the ears are going to be attached to the back of it, so that's actually going to lengthen the head. So there we go. One body, one head, ready for the next part.